Testing, 1, 2. Testing, 1, 2, 3, 4. Do you want me to clap? You want to clap? Okay, this is a test. Testing, 1, 2, test. Testing. Okay.
today we have a couple of the folks who are running a little late, so go ahead. Now's a good time if you need to quickly use the restroom, but otherwise, please take your seats, and we'll get started in just a few moments. Thank you. Yep, I got it right here. Perfect. So I'll just go ahead and. Okay.
there, well, not this second, but when you can.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for attending this morning. I would ask that everyone put their cell phones in silent or turn them off before we begin. Thank you. Good morning. My name is Matthew McCoy, and I'll be your Master of Ceremonies for today's ceremony. It is my honor and privilege to welcome each of you to South Kingstown. Today we will observe the National Medal of Honor Day and remember the town's 3 Medal of Honor recipients, 5 missing in action service members from World War II, the Korean War, and the Vietnam War. I would like to thank everyone for their attendance today. I would like to acknowledge the presence of the following elected officials, military officials, and other dignitaries. Thank you to Senator Jack Reed and Senator Sheldon Whitehouse and Representative Seth Magaziner of the Rhode Island Congressional Delegation for joining us today. Thank you. Thank you, Governor McKee, Secretary of State Greg Amore, General Treasurer Peter Nerona, and, General Treasurer James Diosa, and Attorney General Peter Nerona for your participation today. Thank you. Thank you to State Senator Victoria Gu, State Representatives Sam Azzaniro, Kathleen Fogarty, Carol McEntee, and Tina Spears of the Rhode Island General Assembly. Thank you. And thank you to the leadership of the town of South Kingstown who are present today, including Town Council President McEntee and other members of the Town Council and the Town Manager. And thank you to the Assistant Adjutant General for Air, Brigadier General Kimberly Bowman, for joining us today. Thank you. Also, Director Yarn of the Rhode Island Office of Veteran Services, and for Mr. Ernie Almonte, Executive Director of the Rhode Island League of Cities and Towns. I would also like to thank all the veterans, active duty, National Guard, and Reserve Service members who are present today. And finally, and very importantly, I want to thank all the relatives and friends of the service members that we remember today, especially those Gold Star family members who are present. Let us now begin with our opening ceremony. Advance the colors. I ask all those capable of doing so to please remain standing for the presentation of the colors, the singing of the national anthem, the reciting of the Pledge of Allegiance, and the invocation by Bishop Wallace Hazard. Color Guard, advance the colors.
Oh, say, can you to see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming. And the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Please join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Color Guard, post the colors. I invite Bishop Wallace Hazard to the podium to deliver the invocation. Bishop Hazard.
Let me first say what a privilege to be here in this great celebration, especially in the town of South Kingstown being the first. Isn't that wonderful? It's been a tremendous committee to work with, and I'm so glad I can be here to share with you. Let us pray. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Father, we give thanks to you for this privilege of being here in this community and to share with these folk and to give these medals to those that is well deserved. We thank you for the committee with our hard work and still working. So, Lord, as we continue in this celebration, that the families will be blessed and realize they haven't been forgotten. And we leave it in your hands. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Thank you, Bishop Hazard. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. The 101st United States Congress, including U.S. Senators John Chafee and Claiborne Pell and Representatives Ronald Matchley and Claudine Schneider, resolved via Public Law 101-564 on November 15, 1990, that National Medal of Honor Day would be observed on March 25th each year. This legislation was signed into law by President George H.W. Bush. The purpose of this observance would be to foster public appreciation and recognition of Medal of Honor recipients. The first National Medal of Honor Day was observed on March 25, 1991. March 25th was selected as the day of the observance because on March 25, 1863, Secretary of War Edwin Stanton presented the first Medals of Honor to 6 surviving members of Andrews Raiders for their actions during a daring raid deep behind Confederate lines in April of 1862. Since then, 3,616 Medals of Honor have been awarded, including 3 to recipients from South Kingstown, 2 of those posthumously. Currently, there are 65 living Medal of Honor recipients. The last Medal of Honor, was awarded on March 3rd, 2023. On this date, President Joseph R. Biden Jr. awarded the Medal of Honor to Colonel Paris D. Davis, United States Army, retired, for his actions while serving as commander of Detachment A-321, 5th Special Forces Group Airborne, 1st Special Forces Group, First Special Forces during combat operations against an armed enemy in the vicinity of Bong Song, Republic of Vietnam, June 17th to 18th, 1965. This morning, the state of Rhode Island and the town of South Kingstown join the rest of our country in showing our collective appreciation and respect for those service members who have, through conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity at the risk of life above and beyond the call of duty, earned the Medal of Honor. I would like to invite Governor Daniel Joseph McKee, the 76th Governor of the state of Rhode Island, to the podium to read his National Medal of Honor Day proclamation. Governor McKee. Thank you.
Thank you, Matthew. And I'm honored to be here today on behalf of the people of the state of Rhode Island here in South Kingstown to declare this National Medal of Honor Day. I know that Kasimyan here, our director's here, and we are certainly working every day and every budget to make sure that we honor those who have served and those who are serving today. So it's great to be here again with Senator Reid and Senator White House, with our Congressman Magaziner and others, and our general officers as well, to be here to recognize the events that are happening here today and the honoring that is being given to those individuals that I read their short bios this morning. And we are very proud of everybody in the state of Rhode Island, but not today. The light shines here in South Kingstown. We know that there's 60,000 veterans that currently are involved, are in active duty in the state of Rhode Island, and we thank them for their service. And so I'm honored to be here with everybody today to make the declaration that it's a National Medal of Honor Day, and as Matthew described, from President Lincoln all the way through to modern day with President Biden, bestowing a Medal of Honor on a resident from South Kingstown just in 2023, I believe you said. So today, March, as the governor, Medal of Honor Day, we declare March 25th, 2023 to be National Medal of Honor Day, and I encourage all residents to joining me in recognizing the importance of this day. So thank you for the invitation, and thank you for your leadership, and I'll hand the mic back to Matt. Thank you, sir. And I'll also hand this proclamation to you.
Thank you, Governor McKee. I would now like to invite South Kingstown Town Council President Rory McEntee to the podium to read the Town of South Kingstown's Medal of Honor Town Proclamation. Town Council President McEntee.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Governor McKee. Thank you, federal delegation, state delegation, local delegations for coming today. A huge event here. I'm very impressed with the turnout and quick turnout as well. I do want to give special thanks to the 300th Anniversary Committee, Matt McCoy, Joanne Esposito, and Sharon Henderson. These groups of individuals have been paramount in working to create events like this, but I especially want to thank the families of the Medal of Honor recipients. I want to thank you for your sacrifice, your courage, and your commitment to our country. We're a better place because families like you sacrifice and allow for a strong nation to fight in wars. So thank you for that. But I do want to read the proclamation which declared this town a Medal of Honor town at our most recent town council meeting. And that proclamation reads, whereas the town of South Kingstown, Washington County, Rhode Island, was established in 1657 and incorporated in 1723, and whereas the citizens of the town have always answered our nation's call to arms and have fought gallantly in all our nation's armed conflicts. And whereas the Medal of Honor is the highest military award for bravery that can be given to any individual in the armed forces of the United States of America, and whereas the Medal of Honor was awarded to Sergeant William J. Babcock, Company E, 2nd Rhode Island Infantry, for his actions on April 2, 1865, at Petersburg, Virginia, and whereas the Medal of Honor was awarded to Sergeant William G. Fournier, U.S. Army, Company M, 35th Infantry, Regiment, 25th Infantry Division, for his actions on January 10, 1943, at Solomon Islands, and whereas the Medal of Honor was awarded to Corporal David B. Champagne, U.S. Marine Corps, Company A, 1st Battalion, 7th Marines, 1st Marine Division, reinforced, for his actions on May 28, 1952, in Korea, and whereas South Kingstown appreciates the sacrifices that our Medal of Honor recipients made in defending our freedoms, and believe it is important that we acknowledge them for their courage and show them the honor and support that they have earned. Now, therefore, we, the Town Council of the Town of South Kingstown, do hereby proclaim South Kingstown as a Medal of Honor town and encourage the citizens of the Town of South Kingstown to show their appreciation for the sacrifices the Medal of Honor recipients have made in defending our freedoms, to acknowledge their courage, and to show them the honor and support they have earned. Thank you.
Thank you, Town Council President McAtee. So with that proclamation, the town of South Kingstown becomes the first municipality in the state of Rhode Island to proclaim itself a Medal of Honor town. At this time, I would like to invite the State Commander of the Rhode Island Department of the Veterans of Foreign Wars, Joe Tiger Patrick, to present the town manager, James Manny, with a mock-up of the South Kingstown Medal of Honor town sign. I would like to invite Benjamin J. Frail of the Rhode Island Department of the Sons of Union Veterans of the Civil War to the podium to introduce you to our first Medal of Honor recipient from South Kingstown, Sergeant William James Babcock, United States Army.
William James Babcock was born at Griswold, New London County, Connecticut, on April 8, 1841. He was the son of Gideon Babcock and Carolyn D. Carter Babcock. His siblings were John, Alexander, Sarah, Samuel, Charles, Abby, and Albert Babcock. The Babcock family came to live in South Kingston when William was a child and resided in Wakefield. Babcock was one of the first men to volunteer when Captain Isaac Peace Rodman was organizing the 2nd Rhode Island of the Rhode Island Volunteers in Providence, Rhode Island. He enlisted on June 6, 1861, and was mustered in Company E on the same day. The 2nd Rhode Island departed for Washington, D.C. on June 19, 1861. The 2nd Regiment was initially part of the 4th Corps of the Army of the Northeastern Virginia, which later was renamed the Army of the Potomac. The 2nd Regiment saw its first combat at the First Battle of Bull Run on July 21, 1861. This was the Union's first major battle against the Confederate Army. Babcock was promoted to corporal on November 14, 1862, and on December 26, 1863, he signed the paperwork to re-enlist in the 2nd after his current term of enlistment expired the following June. During his first enlistment with the 2nd Regiment, Babcock participated in the following major battles: First Battle of Bull Run, Siege of Yorktown, Battle of Williamsburg, the Battle of Seven Pines, the Battle of Malvern Hill, the Battle of Fredericksburg, the Second Battle of Fredericksburg, the Battle of Salem's Church, the Battle of Gettysburg, skirmish at Williamsport, the Battle of Mine Run, Battle of the Wilderness, the Battle of Spotsylvania Courthouse, the Battle of Cold Harbor. After his reenlistment, Babcock served with the 2nd Regiment in the following major battles: the Siege of Petersburg, Battle of Fort Stevens, 3rd Battle of Winchester, again the siege at Petersburg, the Battle of Hatcher's Run, the 3rd Battle of Petersburg, Sailor's Creek, and was present at the Lee's surrender at Appomattox Courthouse. Babcock fought with valor in every one of these battles. He was slightly wounded 3 times during the war. Once in battle, a rebel bullet struck a testament and a tintype which he carried in his pocket, saving his life. Babcock returned home to Rhode Island on furlough from February to April of 1864, where he married Phoebe Esther Gould at North Stonington. Following the war, the couple had 8 children: Alexander, Abby, William Thomas, James Henry, Carrie, John, Elmer, and Harry. After returning from his furlough, he was promoted to sergeant on June 5th, 1864, and on January 2nd, 1865, the 2nd Rhode Island was presented with a new set of national and regimental colors from Colonel Amos D. Smith III on behalf of Rhode Island Governor James Y. Smith. Sergeant Babcock was selected as a member of the Color Guard by commanding officer of the 2nd Rhode Island, Major Elijah Hunt Rhodes, and given charge of the national colors. Rhodes said, "Sergeant Babcock, you have been selected as bearer of our national flag as a reward for your gallantry in many battlefields." The 2nd was mustered out of service in Providence, Rhode Island on July 13th, 1865. Babcock was awarded the Medal of Honor at the direction of President Grover Cleveland for his actions on April 2, 1865, at the 3rd Battle of Petersburg. This battle occurred at the end of the 292-day Richmond-Petersburg campaign near the conclusion of the American Civil War. The 2nd Regiment was assigned in the 3rd Brigade, 1st Division, 6th Army Corps of the Army of the Potomac. The Union Army, under overall command of General-in-Chief Lieutenant General Ulysses S. Grant, launched an assault on General Robert E. Lee's Confederate Army of the Northern Virginia's trenches and fortifications at Petersburg, Virginia. Babcock was presented the Medal of Honor on March 2nd, 1895, almost 30 years after the actions that earned him the award. His Medal of Honor citation reads, "Planted the flag upon the parapet while the enemy still occupied the line. Was the first in his regiment to enter the works." Babcock was a founding member of Major General John Sedgwick post of the Grand Army of the Republic in Peacedale, Wakefield, Rhode Island. This post was chartered on April 18th, 1884. Babcock was known as a brave soldier, a good citizen, and was esteemed by his comrades. Babcock died of a lingering illness at his residence in South Kingstown, Washington County, Rhode Island, on October 29th, 1897. Babcock's funeral was held on Sunday, October 31st. Members of Sedgwick Post escorted Babcock's remains from his residence to the Post Hall. Babcock's casket was borne by comrades E.J. Whitford, Edward Yost, W.H. Northup, Thomas N. Sims, William Willis, and Jerry Holland, all members of the 2nd Regiment, and all but one of them were original members of Company E. Reverend A.C. Hardy of the Church of Ascension read the burial service, after which William C. Clark, adjutant of Sedgwick Post, read Babcock's war record. At the conclusion of the ceremony at the post, Babcock's remains were carried to Riverside Cemetery, where the ritual of Order of the Dead was read by Sedgwick Post Commander George F. Holland and Chaplain E.J. Whitford. Babcock is buried in Section A, Riverside Cemetery, South Kingstown, Rhode Island.
Thank you, Ben. Next, I would like to invite Joe Tiger Patrick of the Rhode Island Department of Veterans of Foreign Wars of the United States to the podium to introduce you to our 2nd Medal of Honor recipient from South Kingstown, Sergeant William Grant Fournier, United States Army. Tiger.
Hi. Thank you so much for this
I have this speech that was prepared for me, and I'd like to thank whoever wrote it. However, since he was my grandfather's brother, I have stories I could relate to you all day, but I will just share one, and that's about these glasses. William Grant Fournier was born on June 21st, 1913. He was the fourth of four children. My grandfather was his next youngest brother, who was a few years older than him. Unfortunately, tragedy would hit the family, and Billy, that's what my family called him, his mom died on Christmas Day, his first Christmas. So he never got to meet or do Christmas with his mom. His mother was a Gaudreau, which is a large family here in South Kingstown in Washington County. So the family jumped in because the father was long gone, I guess. And they went to Norwich, and they took the kids, and they raised them separately and got them together over the holidays and over the summer. My grandfather talked fondly about that with us kids growing up, his grandchildren. William made it as far as 8th grade. Like many kids his generation, he went to work his ninth school year in the factories here in Peacedale and Wakefield. He didn't really like that too much, so he joined the Navy and did a 5-year hitch in the Pacific and fell in love with it. He came back, tried to do just regular work. He worked at an electronic shop here in town fixing radios, and he lived with my grandfather, another bachelor. He didn't really like that either, so he went to Maine and tried his hand at farming. Did that for a few years, and he didn't like that. So he tried to join the Navy, but apparently he didn't get out under the best terms, so he had to join the Army using his original name. He was born a Fournier, but his mom's brother, Henry, raised him as a Gaudreau, so he was Billy Gaudreau. Well, he went back into the Army under the pseudonym of his original name, Fournier. That's why he's Fournier. I remember asking my grandfather, why does he have a different last name, Grandpa? And he didn't tell me till I was 14 what the deal was. So I appreciated that. Fast forward, he came to Rhode Island. He enlisted in Maine, but he came to Rhode Island because my grandfather was getting married. That was in 39, 40, and that right at the end of December. And he stayed for a little while with them, and then together my grandfather and William, or Billy, went to Connecticut to say goodbye to their mom. She's buried outside of Norwich, Connecticut, and that's why William is one of the few Congressional Medal of Honor recipients who's listed on 3 state rosters because he signed up in Maine, lived in Rhode Island, and then originally raised his right hand again in Connecticut. So all 3 claim them, but he's a son of South Kingstown, be very clear about that. He was Pearl Harbor, he was there in Hawaii at Schofield, he engaged the enemy there. We hear he got married while he was out there, but we can't really track that down. He was a different soul. But when the war started, they shipped him off to Guadalcanal, and he perished in February 1943, engaged with, he was a gunner, and there were 6 of them, 3 squads, 3 different machine guns, and they were attacked by the Japanese, and all the rest were killed, except for him and this person, another soldier called Lewis Hall, who's from Hebron, Ohio. And together they engaged and saved the lives of the squadron who were in front of them because it was a surprise attack. They were credited with almost 100 killed that day. William was posthumously awarded the Congressional Medal of Honor, and the award was in October 28th. And the reason why I know that date is my mom was born October 29th that year. And so growing up, my grandfather always called her the grieving baby. And I didn't understand that either, but then once he told me about when I was 14. In June 21st, 1973, I was 9, my grandfather brought me to our post that is now named after him, the William G. Fournier Post. And apparently, there were all of Billy's medals and the flag that draped his casket adorned. They're in a shadow box that was built in 1955. My grandfather made a deal with the Post that he said, hey, I'll let you have this stuff. I just want to go and visit with him on his birthday, June 21st, which he did every year from 1955. And I brought him to his last one in 1986. I went to all the ones that I could all through school, and even when I was in the Army in the mid-'80s, I would take leave to take him. The last time we went was in 1986. He had Alzheimer's, and he was kind of frail, So I helped him get dressed, and he got put on his Sunday clothes, 'cause that's what he called them, nice suit and his fedora hat and these glasses. I helped him put these glasses on. I got him, I tied him, I just remember that moment. And when we walked into the room, it creaks in that room at the post. He stood taller. He was so proud. And we had a six-pack of Budweiser, and he told stories, and he was very lucid. It was an awesome, amazing experience. So he passed the next year before June, unfortunately. So that was his last time, and I'm honored to say that I went with him 15 times over the years. It's something that I always treasure. So every June at our post, I go, I get a couple beers, and I put these glasses on, because it was important to me to honor Billy with the glasses that my grandfather last saw his awards and his medals, because he didn't make it to Hawaii, where Billy is buried out there in the Punch Bowl. So it was like his spot. And unfortunately, he literally died 2 years before the monument at Wakefield School went up. And so that would have been his go-to as well, because it has William's name on there. And so as a family member of those we're honoring today, I just want to say this really means a lot. This is huge. Just to hear our loved ones' names remembered again. You know, I know you're going to hear about David Champagne in a minute, but up there in the back are two women that I grew up with. Well, they grew up, Cindy and Karen. They are the daughters of Shorty Powers. And he was in the foxhole when David Champagne made the ultimate sacrifice, another townie with him. And so they're here today because of the actions of David Champagne. And so today means a lot to us, and thank you all for coming, and thank you.
Thank you, Tiger. So finally, I would like to invite U.S. Marine Corps Lieutenant Colonel retired James Haldeman to the podium to introduce you to our third Medal of Honor recipient from South Kingstown, Corporal David Bernard Champagne, United States Marine Corps. Colonel Haldeman.
It is a proud moment to represent the Marine Corps for the following Medal of Honor recipient. David Bernard Champagne was born on November 13, 1932, at Waterville, Kennebunk County, Maine. He was the son of Bernard Leo Champagne from 1909 to 1996 and Anna L. Osborne Champagne, who lived between 1911 and 1982. His siblings were Carlton O. Champagne, who lived from 1931 to 2018, and Reginald H. Champagne from 1938 to 1953. The family resided at 34 Woodruff Avenue in Wakefield, Rhode Island. Champagne attended public schools in Wakefield, Rhode Island, graduated from Wakefield Grammar School in 1947, and the South Kingstown High School in 1951. He worked as an usher at the local community theater. He enlisted in the United States Marine Corps at Boston, Massachusetts on March 7, 1951. Champagne completed recruit training at Parris Island, South Carolina, and then was stationed at Camp Pendleton, California, for further training from June to August 1951, prior to being assigned to the Alpha Company, 1st Battalion, 7th Marine Regiment, 1st Marine Division, which was a part of the 8th U.S. Army in Korea, commonly known as USAC. Champagne deployed to Korea in October 1951. He participated in 3 major campaigns against the enemy. On 28 May 1952, Champagne, a fire team leader, advanced with his platoon in the initial assault on a strongly fortified and heavily defended enemy hill position. He successfully led his team through enemy grenade, small arms, and machine gun fire to the crest of the hill. Although wounded in the encounter, refused evacuation. The enemy counterattack increased, and a grenade landed amid Champagne's team. Without hesitation, He seized the grenade and threw it back at the enemy. It exploded as it left his hand and hurled him out of the trench. While thus exposed to enemy mortar fire, he was mortally wounded. For these actions, he was recommended for the Medal of Honor and approved by President Dwight D. Eisenhower. Champagne's Medal of Honor citation reads, "For conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity at the risk of his life, above and beyond the call of duty, while serving as a fire team leader of Company A, 1st Battalion, 7th Marines, 1st Marine Division Reinforced, in action against enemy aggressor forces in Korea on 28 May 1952, advancing with his platoon in the initial assault of the company against a strongly fortified and heavily defended hill position. Corporal Champagne skillfully led his fire team through a veritable hail of intense enemy machine gun, small arms, and grenade fire, overrunning trenches, and a series of almost impregnable bunker positions before reaching the crest of the hill and placing his men in a defensive positions. Suffering a painful leg wound while assisting in the repelling of the ensuing hostile counterattack, which was launched under cover of a murderous hail of mortar and artillery fire, he steadfastly refused evacuation and fearlessly continued to control his fire team. When the enemy counterattack increased its intensity and a hostile grenade landed in the midst of the fire team, Corporal Champagne unhesitatingly seized the deadly missile and hurled it in the direction of the approaching enemy. As the grenade left his hand, it exploded, blowing off his hand and throwing him out of the trench. Mortally wounded by enemy mortar fire while in this exposed position, Corporal Champagne, by his valiant leadership, fortitude, and gallant spirit of self-sacrifice in the face of almost certain death, undoubtedly saved the lives of several of his fellow Marines. His heroic actions served to inspire all who observed him and reflect the highest credit upon himself and the United States Naval Service. He gallantly gave his life for his country. Champagne's Medal of Honor ceremony was held at 2:00 p.m. on Sunday, 26 July 1953 at the old Mountain Baseball Field in Wakefield, Rhode Island. Brigadier General Reginald Hebert Ridgely, Jr., United States Marine Corps, the Director of Personnel at Headquarters, United States Marine Corps, Washington, D.C., representing the Commandant of the Marine Corps, represented Corporal David Bernard Champagne's Medal of Honor to his 15-year-old brother, Reginald H. Champagne. Following the Medal of Honor presentation by Ridgely, Rhode Island Governor Dennis Joseph Roberts presented Reginald Champagne with the Rhode Island Cross. Both Governor Roberts and the United States Senator John Orlando Pastor made brief remarks immediately following the two medal presentations. In addition to the Medal of Honor, Champagne was posthumously awarded the Purple Heart Medal. He also held the Korean Service Medal with 3 Bronze Stars and the United Nations Service Medal. The Color and Honor Guard consisted of Marines assigned to the Marine Detachment at Quonset Point Naval Air Station in North Kingstown. Several Marines that served with Champagne in Korea were in the Honor Guard, including Sergeant Edmund W. Woodland, Corporal Eric D. Hodges, and Private First Class Henry J. Holt. Sergeant Woodland was one of the stretcher bearers who carried Corporal Champagne to the rear after being mortally wounded in action. Also in attendance were Private First Class William A. Powers, whose life Corporal Champagne saved, and Sergeant Herbert Aldos, Jr., who was seriously wounded while fighting alongside Corporal Champagne. Champagne was the second Wakefield man to receive the Medal of Honor posthumously. The first was Sergeant William Grant Fournier, who was killed in action at Guadalcanal during World War II. Champagne was the 29th Marine to receive the Medal of Honor for service during the Korean War. Champagne's remains were repatriated to the United States and in August 1952 were interred in the St. Francis de Sales Catholic Cemetery at Waterville, Maine. Champagne's younger brother, Reginald, drowned on 12 August 1953, shortly after accepting his brother's posthumous Medal of Honor. Both he and his parents were laid to rest alongside David. In December 1953, the United States Marine Corps paid a further tribute to Corporal Champagne by naming a platoon after him. Rhode Island men between the ages of 17 and 31 were enlisted in the Marine Corps between 10 December and 26 January of that year, were assigned to the Corporal David Bernardo Champagne platoon of the recently formed Yankee Marine Battalion. The members of the 75-man platoon were sent to the Marine Corps Training Center in Parris Island, South Carolina. The first man from Wakefield to join the platoon was to be named Right Guide and given the honor of carrying the guidon presented by the South Kingstown Chamber of Commerce. The guidon was to be presented to Corporal Champagne's mother after the platoon completed their training. Champagne Heights in South Kingstown is a housing property managed by the South Kingstown Housing Authority that is named in honor of Medal of Honor recipient Corporal David Bernard Champagne, United States Marine Corps. On 23 June 1997, House Resolution 2013 was introduced into the United States House of Representatives. The purpose of this resolution was to designate the United States Post Office located at 551 Kingstown Road, South Kingstown, Rhode Island, as the David B. Champagne Post Office Building. The legislation was passed in both the House and the Senate and signed into law by President William Jefferson Clinton. Thank you.
Thank you, Colonel Haldeman. The Rhode Island Heritage Hall of Fame exists to honor and recognize and to extol and publicize the achievements of those Rhode Island men and women who have, in the words of the Hall of Fame, induction, citation, made significant contributions to their community, state, and/or nation. It is also their mission to tell the story of Rhode Island history using the biographies of our inductees, noting their collective impact on every phase of Rhode Island's development. Election to the Rhode Island Heritage Hall of Fame is the highest civic honor that can be conferred upon a Rhode Islander. Of the several million persons who were born in our ocean state or lived or worked or made their reputations here, only a small select number have been accorded Hall of Fame status. Inductees into the Rhode Island Heritage Hall of Fame from South Kingstown include Caroline Hazard, Roland Gibson Hazard, Thomas Robinson Hazard, Leona McElroy Kelly, Helly Marchant, James W. Norman, Congressman Alicia Reynolds Potter, Jr., Brigadier General Isaac Peace Rodman, Lucy Rawlings Tutel, and William Updike, to name a few. Two of the three Medal of Honor recipients from South Kingstown have been selected for induction into the Rhode Island Heritage Hall of Fame. They are Sergeant William Grant Fournier and Corporal David Bernard Champagne. Sergeant William James Babcock was not selected because the Rhode Island Heritage Hall of Fame currently has a policy that it will not induct any of the state's Medal of Honor recipients from the period prior to World War I. I ask Joe Tiger Patrick and Lieutenant Colonel Jim Haldeman to come forward to receive the citations from the Rhode Island Heritage Hall of Fame. During this legislative session, bills have been introduced into both the Rhode Island House of Representatives and Senate, which, when passed, signed into law by Governor McKee, will rename 3 bridges in South Kingstown in honor of the town's Medal of Honor recipients. House Bill 5233 was introduced on January 25th, 2023, and was sponsored by state reps Teresa Tanzi, Kathleen Fogarty, Carol McEntee, Camille Vell Wilkinson, Chairman Sam Mazzanero, Marvin Abney, Representative Knight, Blazewski, and Speaker Sikarchi. Bill was referred to the House Special Legislation Committee chaired by Representative Alzati, and on February 2nd, 2023 was held for further study. Senate Bill 666 was introduced on March 7th, 2023, and was sponsored by State Senators Sosnowski, Valverde, and Gu. It was referred to the Senate Special Legislation and Veterans Affairs Committee, chaired by Senator Walter S. Felag, Jr. The citizens of South Kingstown are looking forward to both of these bills passing out of committee, being approved by both the Senate and the House, and signed into law by Governor McKee. I would like to ask Ben Frail, Joe Tiger Patrick, and Lieutenant Colonel Jim Haldeman to present the proposed Medal of Honor bridge signs to the town manager, Jim Manning. All right, line up here. Thank you. So now we would like to do a Medal of Honor wreath laying. For the, I would invite Ben Frail, Tiger Patrick, and Lieutenant Colonel Jim Haldeman to come down the stairs to the area to my left, where they will be given a wreath. And for the family members, we are going to go in the order of Babcock, Fournier, and Champagne. So starting with Ben Frail and the members of the Babcock family, if you could join Ben, and the wreath stands are to your right there, Ben. And next, the members of the Fournier family and Tiger Patrick. And next, Lieutenant Colonel Haldeman and members of the Champagne family. All right, Colonel? Thank you. So this completes our tribute to the 3 Medal of Honor recipients from South Kingstown. We will now remember and honor the town's 5 missing in action service members from World War II, the Korean War, and the Vietnam War. According to the United States Department of Defense, more than 81,500 Americans, let that number sink in, 81,500 Americans remain missing from World War II, the Korean War, the Vietnam War, the Cold War, the Gulf Wars, and other conflicts. That's 81,500 service members who have not come home. Out of more than 81,500 missing, 75% of those losses are located in the Indo-Pacific, and over 41,000 of the missing are presumed lost at sea, including ship losses and known aircraft water losses. The Defense Prisoner of War Missing in Action Accounting Agency is the organization within the Department of Defense responsible for fully accounting for America's missing service members. For World War II, America's participation in World War II lasted from December 7th, 1941 to December 12th, 1946. A total of 72,248 American service members remain unaccounted for from the war, including 446 from Rhode Island. The last missing Rhode Islander accounted for was Army Private First Class Roy J. Searle, Company D, 1st Battalion, 357th Infantry Regiment, 90 Infantry Division, who was accounted for on September 27th, 2022. The Korean War lasted from June 27th, 1950 to July 27th, 1953. A total of 7,508 American service members remain unaccounted for from the war, including 214 from Rhode Island. The last Rhode Islander accounted for from the Korean War was, and I have to make a correction, because if you read the Projo today, we have an article in the Projo about Army Sergeant Lawrence J. Ribadu from Cumberland, who was accounted for. For the Vietnam War, America's participation lasted from July 8th, 1959 to May 15th, 1975. Total of 1,581 American service members remain unaccounted for, including 6 from Rhode Island. The last Rhode Islander accounted for from the Vietnam War was Air Force Colonel Frederick Moore Meller, 363rd Tactical Fighter Wing. He was declared missing in action on August 13th, 1965. His remains were recovered, later identified by DPAA on July 13th, 2018. It is our sincere hope that the remains of additional missing in action service members from Rhode Island are located, positively identified, and repatriated to the United States. We will now recognize and remember each of South Kingstown's missing in action service members from World War II, the Korean War, and the Vietnam War. I will be calling the name of the missing in action service member. Chief Farrell from the Rhode Island Fire Chiefs Association Honor Flight Hub will be tolling a bell in their memory. And members of the Rhode Island's congressional delegation and state government will join with each service member's family and friends to pay homage to each missing man. After this, members of the public who wish to do so can come get a rose if you do not have one, and pay their respects by placing that rose on our missing in action memorial table at the front of the stage. So we will begin with Lieutenant Stewart Trumbull Cooper. We remember Lieutenant Stewart Trumbull Cooper, United States Navy Bombing Squadron 101, missing in action on February 14th, 1943, presumed dead on December 10th, 1945. So the Cooper family and Senator Whitehouse if you could retrieve your wreath and lay it at the first wreath stand on your left. And then invite the family members to lay their roses on the table. Thank you. We remember Colonel Curtis Abbott Eaton, United States Air Force, 357th Tactical Fighter Squadron, 355th Tactical Fighter Wing, missing in action on August 14th, 1966, presumed dead on April 3rd, 1978. Colonel Curtis Abbott Eaton. So Congressman Magaziner and Linda. And I invite the family members to present their roses. Thank you very much. Next, we remember Lieutenant Junior Grade Peter Hamilton Hazard, United States Navy, Composite Squadron 9, U.S. Natoma Bay, missing in action on March 27, 1945, presumed dead on March 28, 1946, Lieutenant Junior Grade Peter Hamilton Hazard. All right. Next, we remember Lieutenant Victor Marvin Gaudreau, United States Navy, Fighter Squadron 3, USS Saratoga, missing in action December 22nd, 1941, presumed dead on December 22nd, 1941, Lieutenant Victor Marvin Gaudreau. And I would invite members of the Gaudreau family to lay their flowers. Thank you. And finally, we remember First Lieutenant Richard Lee McNulty, United States Air Force, 80th Fighter Bomber Squadron, 8th Fighter Bomber Group, missing in action on January 16th, 1952, presumed dead on December 31st, 1953. First Lieutenant Richard Lee McNulty. And I would invite the rest of the McNulty family to lay their roses. Thank you. I now invite members of the public who have a rose, who wish to pay tribute to South Kingstown's missing in action service members, to come forward down this side aisle here and place their rose on the monument to the missing. Thank you very much. I will now read a poem entitled, We Remember Them. We remember them. In the rising of the sun and its going down, we remember them. In the blowing of the wind and in the chill of the winter, we remember them. In the opening of the buds and in the rebirth of spring, we remember them. In the blueness of the skies and the warmth of the summer, we remember them. In the rustling of the leaves and the beauty of the autumn, we remember them. In the beginning of the year and when it ends, we remember them. When we are weary and in need of strength, we remember them. When we are lost and sick at heart, we remember them. When we have joys and special celebrations, we remember them. When we see our nation's young marching behind our flag or hear taps played, we remember them. So long as we live, they too shall live, for they are part of us. And when we answer the final roll, we know that they will fulfill their duty and greet us with words of compassion and friendship, peace and love. Welcome home. Thank you. I would like to invite United States Senator Jack Reed to come to the podium and make his remarks. Senator Reed.
It is a great honor to join this community as they salute our Medal of Honor winners and our missing in action. And let me also recognize my colleagues in government that are here today. Governor McKee, Senator Whitehouse, Congressman Magaziner, Secretary of State Amore, Treasurer Diosa, Attorney General Nerona, all of the state representatives and senators and councilmen and women. Thank you very much for joining us. And also would like to recognize President Palange and Mrs. Palange at the University of Rhode Island. Thank you for joining us. There are many to thank for this moving and memorable moment. Town Manager Jim Manny, all of those who worked so hard to make this happen, including the Rhode Island National Guard, the South Kingstown 300th Anniversary Committee, Chief Matthew Moynihan, Chief Stephen Pinch, Tiger Patrick for all the work he's done, and so many others, but a special shout out to Matt McCoy and Joni Esposito for the great work they've done. Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Joni. Let me also thank my fellow veterans that are here. You, like me, were inspired by the service of these extraordinarily brave people who both were awarded medals of honor and also gave their lives and are still missing in action. Today we gather for National Medal of Honor Day to remember those who were awarded the medal, but all who served, because they all joined together as a nation, as one people, to defend our country, to defend our democracy, to ensure that what has been won by sacrifice and service will be continued forever. There are no greater men or women than those who've worn the uniform of the United States, and in particular those who have made the ultimate sacrifice for the United States. There are 65 living recipients of the Medal of Honor. I was lucky last week to sit down with one, my former colleague and friend Bob Kerry, who was awarded the Congressional Medal of Honor as a SEAL in Vietnam. Today we are specifically honoring the South Kingstown Medal of Honor winners and the 5 service members who remain missing in action. But let me say, they may be missing in action, but they're not missing in the hearts of their families or in the hearts of this community, and they never will. I also want to recognize the activities of the Department of Defense POW MIA Accounting Agency. They continue to search relentlessly for the remains of these brave men and women to return them home to their families. And as Matt announced, there was another Rhode Islander just discovered recently. We've all heard about the lives of these brave men. We're all here among their family members. We celebrate and remember their sacrifice. They have given us a chance to carry on the great work of freedom and democracy. We honor their service and their sacrifice. We will continue to remember their brave service, their heroism, their example to us. Their task is now our task, to work with everything we have to build a just and decent America in a peaceful world. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Senator Reed. At this time, I invite Rhode Island Governor Daniel Joseph McKee to come to the podium and make his remarks.
I was able to kind of lay out the honor that it is to be here representing the people of the state of Rhode Island, and I would just say, after hearing the stories and watching the families lay the wreaths and the roses, in remembrance, that we will always remember, and that it's important that we remember. We remember why we celebrate the lives that we have in the country that we are so fortunate to be able to live in. So I'll just leave it at that, but it's just an honor to be here with my colleagues, those people that are remembering their families directly and allowing us to share in that memory with you. So thank you, and God bless America.
All right, at this point, we have some presentations to make, so I would invite Senator Reed and Governor McKee down to the area in front of the stage. I would ask Senator Whitehouse, Congressman Magaziner, and the general officers to join them in the front of the stage. So Ben Frail, Tiger Patrick, Lieutenant Colonel Haldeman, if you could also join up front. I would ask a family member from the Babcock, Fournier, Gaudreau, Cooper, Eaton, Hazard, McNulty, and, sorry, forgetting the other one. All of the families to come up front for the presentations, please. One person from each family. So if the family members could line up here with you three, Ben, Tiger, and Colonel, behind the family member. All right. We have flags. You get your pick. So, gentlemen, if you come up front, we have flags to be presented. So if you, Senator Reed, start with the black framed ones. That's the all right, so that's Babcock family right there. Okay, next we have Fournier, Governor. Fournier family. Okay, Senator Whitehouse. So this is Champaign. So Champaign family. All right, Cooper. Secretary. All right, this is Eaton. Gadro. And McNulty. Or I'm sorry, Hazard. And yes, sir. And finally, the McNulty family. So what each family is receiving is Senator Reed's office has provided each family with a U.S. flag that has flown over the U.S. Capitol in honor of the family member. We have citations from most of the other elected officials, including the governor, the Speaker of the House, I believe Senator Whitehouse's office, and a couple other offices, I believe Representative Magaziner's office as well. So let's give the families a round of applause, please. And if everyone can return to their seats, please. We're actually on time, by the way. So. If we had done this outside, we would have had a C-130 flying around, and so that would have made our timing much more difficult. But I thank the Rhode Island Air National Guard for arranging that for us. All right, at this point, we will now observe a moment of silence in memory of all of South Kingstown's fallen service members. So please join me for a moment of silence. Thank you. The 2nd Rhode Island Volunteers, Company B, Honor Guard, are outside the auditorium and will now fire a 3-volley salute in honor of South Kingstown's fallen and missing action service members from all wars and conflicts. The stage doors, or the doors leading the outside, have been opened. We have a microphone out there, so hopefully everyone can hear it. So please stand. I invite Bishop Wallace Hazard to the podium to deliver the benediction.
Let me first say I'm proud to be in this community. It brings back memories during the Vietnam War. A lot of my colleagues around the country didn't return, but I was blessed to be one to return. But I want to say thank you to all those dignitaries and everybody that's here. We shall never forget this. And I'm going to do my level best to continue to never forget their sacrifice. Father, we come to your presence, thanking you for this occasion. Thank you for all of our fallen comrades. And we're still thankful for those that are serving our great nation. We shall never forget. We thank you for the 300th committee, the town council, all the officials, state representatives, governor. We appreciate this time that South Kingstown is the first to do this. Therefore, we leave everything in your hands. These families, we trust that they've been touched by this. But most of all, you be their source of comfort. Therefore, we leave everyone here in your hands. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Thank you, Bishop Hazard. Please be seated. I just have a few closing announcements. So thank you for your participation in today's National Medal of Honor Day dedication and remembrance ceremony. I would like to thank George McAuliffe of the Muse Tavern for sponsoring this event. The banners that you see on Main Street and the resources required to put this event on were provided by George and the Muse Tavern, so thank you. Also, additional thanks to Belmont Market, Panera Bread for delivering the refreshments. I invite you to visit the World War II Foundation's Global Education Center located at 344 Main Street. This is Tim Gray's museum. Those of you who know Tim know that he's a documentarian. He's presently on Iwo Jima as we speak, making another film about World War II veterans. The museum has recently expanded, and they've added a virtual reality center, and they'll be open until 4 o'clock today. Wednesday, March 29th is National Vietnam War Veterans Day. Please use this day to welcome home all of the Vietnam vets in South Kingstown and to thank them for their service and their sacrifice. The South Kingstown 300th Anniversary Parade will be held from 10 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. Saturday, June 17th, 2023. And on August 19th, 2023, the town will pay tribute to Brigadier General Isaac Peace Rodman, a hometown hero from the American Civil War. Look for additional information on the South Kingstown 300th Anniversary webpage. At 7 p.m. on September 7th, 2023, at the South Kingstown High School here, Professor Evan Wilson from the United States Naval War College will be presenting a lecture on the life and times of Commodore Oliver Hazard Perry, a naval hero from South Kingstown. On Friday, September 15th, it's National POW MIA Recognition Day. And finally, on Sunday, September 24th, 2023, is Gold Star Mothers and Families Day. And we cannot forget our Gold Star families. At noon today, there are several churches and at the town hall that will be ringing their bells in honor of National Medal of Honor Day. So I want to thank Town Manager Manny for making that happen and Sharon Henderson for arranging that with the church. This concludes our ceremony. I ask the members of the public to remain seated while the members of the official party and dignitaries retire. And our bagpiper should be playing some musical interlude on the way out. Thank you. Thank you all for covering the event.